Hi, my name's Phil Gardner and welcome to Fun with Boxes. Well, today I'm taking a look at a new board game called Stalagbite, the Dwarven Quest for Gold and Glory, designed by Paul and Gary Scott and published by Midlam Miniatures. In a game of Stalagbite, you will take on the role of a dwarf hunting for all that gold and glory in the caverns, deep and mysterious, filled with many hazards and many terrifying creatures. You will search for new caverns and venture deeper into the twisting caves, all the time challenging your fellow dwarfs in a hunt to collect the greatest hoard of treasure. But watch out! You do not have that much time. The goblins of the Lost Mountains are aware of your presence and have sent a hunting party after you. Will your quest end in triumph and glory and gold, or will the caverns of the Lost Mountains ultimately become your doom and also your tomb? Only you can find out. Well, let's take a Fun with Boxes look at what you get in a game of Stalagbite. Okay, let's take a closer look at the game, how to set it up and how it plays. And there are chapter stops in the description below for you to jump to any section you wish to know more about. Or you can simply just sit back and let me take you through everything. I always find that when I am first learning a new game for the first time, it's really important to lay out all the components, not only to double check to make sure that I have everything, but also to understand what each of them is and what they look like, so that when I get to set up the game, I understand what everything is without having to puzzle through a bunch of stuff and then get all confused. One of the key things a rulebook needs to provide me with is a detailed component list with pictures, diagrams, anything and everything to help me identify all the various playing pieces, cards and other components. And Midlam Miniatures have done just that. Here is the component page from the rulebook, covering everything we need to know to separate everything out and get ready for setup. Here are the creatures and goblins in the game. The creatures are the Stalagbites, the level 1 and 2 creatures. The Creeping Jeepers, love that name, the level 3 and 4 creatures, and the Red Hook Horrors, the level 5 and 6 creatures. And finally we have the pesky goblin hunting party that will be aiming to spoil all our plans. Next we have the tokens, the purple glory tokens, the cubes worth 1 point and the discs worth 5 points, the red damage cubes, and then all the gold crystals and gems, all nice and shiny and waiting for us to snuffle up. Here is the event die and party leader token, and here are the dwarfs and their dice. Next up we have the 5 cavern tiles, which are double-sided, and you can tell these sides apart by their entrance step shapes. The A side has a round entrance step, and the B side has a square step. Each cavern also has openings for 5 cave tokens, and we also have some corridor tiles that will be handy for linking the caverns we find. Next we have an entry marker, exit marker, entrance token, campaign exit token, cavern connectors, and some same level exit tokens. And then we have a huge pile of cave tokens and a huge pile of rock tokens. Finally, we have all the cards in the game. We have dwarf skill cards, relic cards, critical hit cards which are used in the campaign games, cavern cards, one of which is drawn during setup that will have a unique ongoing effect just for that game, incident cards for when investigating rocks and something dangerous perhaps happens, the goblin hunting deck cards and goblin arrival card, along with campaign finale cards. Then we have poison cards and the toughness cards used to record your dwarf's toughness throughout the game. Also included in the game box is some bonus content as an added gift for backers of the recent Kickstarter. The lava cavern tile and extra components that will come with its own separate rule sheet, which I will not be looking at in this video. And with the components covered, let's take a quick look at an overview of the gameplay. Stalagbite is a competitive game where each player takes on the role of a dwarf, all competing to get the most gold and glory. However, everyone will need to work together to defeat the enemies and keep each other alive, or else the expedition will fail. The game can be played as a one-off game or as part of a campaign. We will be looking at setting up and how to play a one-off game, but this will be the same process for starting up a campaign. So even if you played a one-off game, you could choose to continue and extend that game into a full campaign if you so wished. For simplicity's sake, I will go through the setup of a 1 to 4 player game. There are minor tweaks if you're playing with 5 or 6 players, which you will find clearly marked up in the rules. All the dwarfs start their explorations in a single cavern and are led by a party leader who will go first in each round, making decisions and breaking any ties in votes. At the end of the round, after all dwarfs have taken their turns, and then the enemies have taken a turn, the party leader is passed to the dwarf with the most glory. At the start of a round, the party leader rolls the event phase die, resolving its effects, and then the dwarves will act first unless a surprise was rolled, in which case the enemies will go first. On their turn, each dwarf will take a turn, one at a time, starting with the party leader and going clockwise around the table. You will be investigating caves and rocks to find treasure and passageways to new caverns, battling enemies and earning glory. On the enemy's turn, in initiative order, they will move towards the dwarfs by the closest path, and then again in initiative and rank order will attack if able. However, it's not just the enemies the dwarfs need to be mindful of in the caverns. Oh no, there is a goblin hunting party on the way to the caverns, and when they arrive, they will go after and attack the dwarfs. The game will come to an end in a few ways. If a dwarf dies, if a goblin hunting party arrives, or if the dwarfs vote themselves to leave the caverns. And the winner will be the dwarf with the most combined gold and glory. The caverns are comprised of 1 to 6 levels, with level 6 being the deepest level. The deeper you go, the greater the rewards, but that of course comes with even greater risks. Dwarves of course love their treasure, and this can get the better of them. But no matter what, dwarves are very honourable and would come to the aid of another dwarf in a desperate situation. So remember, even when the pursuit of gold may be getting the better of you, you must remain honourable and help those in need. Setup. Now let's go through how to set up a game of Stalagbite. Each player chooses a dwarf and takes the corresponding coloured die and also 1 glory cube. Next, decide who will be the party leader, and they will take the event die and party leader token. If you cannot decide who will be the party leader, then the last person to go on a quest will be the leader. And if you still can't agree on a leader, then you can roll off using the dwarf dice. Whoever rolls the most wounds wins, with the dwarf special icon trumping all other results. And keep rolling until you have your leader. Then choose a cavern level, for which your first game should be level 1. Otherwise, you can use a die to randomly determine the cavern starting level. Shuffle the cavern tiles and then place them in a pile, face down. Odd-numbered levels use the side with the round entry step, whilst even-numbered levels use the square entry step side. Add the double-sided hexagonal entrance token and place the entry marker behind it like this. And now we need to populate the cavern. Take 1 passageway token along with 4 random cave tokens. Shuffle them all face down and then randomly add them to the cavern openings. Add a random rock token to each of the rock spots on the cavern. Then, if there are any skulls on the cavern tile, place the appropriate level creature. For our example, a level 1 rank 1 Stalagbite. We next create the Goblin Hunting deck by shuffling up the hunting deck and deal 7 cards face down to create a small deck, and pop this onto the Goblin Arrival card. Draw and reveal one cavern card. This will add an additional rule that will be in effect just for this game. Next, we will hone our skills by dealing 2 skills cards to each player. Players then have 2 options: either keep one card and discard the other, or you could discard both cards to start the game with 1 extra toughness for your dwarf. Everyone starts with a toughness of 7, so if you choose to discard both cards, you would start with a toughness of 8. Players then take the appropriate toughness card matching their starting toughness level. Then we find relics by dealing 2 relic cards to each player, who must choose one and discard the other. Finally, we place all the dwarfs into the cavern, starting with the party leader and going clockwise around the table. And each player may place their dwarf into an unoccupied space that can trace a path back to the entrance. They cannot be placed on caves or rock tokens, and the path cannot be blocked by rock tokens or creatures. And now we are ready to play. Playing Stalagbite should be pretty easy to pick up, especially with the fantastic reference guide on the back page of the rulebook and the included player aid cards. There are quite a few things for you to be aware of, but as you play you will quickly pick things up in next to no time. Again, that handy rules reference on the back page will be of great help to you with your first few games. Plus the rulebook will clearly guide and help you if you have any questions. Midlam Miniatures have done a great job with producing some very handy things for you when you start off on your adventures. In fact, let's just look at the reference guide right now at the back of the rulebook and go through a turn of the game. The party leader starts by rolling the event die and resolves the result. If the sacred symbol of dwarfs is rolled, everyone gains 1 glory. If an ambush is rolled, a number of enemies equal to the number of dwarfs are added to the cavern. If the countdown symbol is rolled, then the goblin hunting party advances ever closer to the caverns and the party leader loses 1 glory. Drawing a hunting card and following the instructions. If recover is rolled, then everyone discards 1 damage. If the sense symbol is rolled, each dwarf may secretly take a peek at a cave or rock token. This is without showing anyone else, so put it back where you found it. You cannot use the sense ability if in a cave, a passage, a corridor, pit, or if grasped. If the surprise is rolled, then the enemies move and attack before the dwarfs this round. Once we have resolved the event die, the dwarfs normally act and move starting with the party leader. Then the enemies will move in initiative and rank, then attack if able, again in initiative, order and rank. Any dwarf may then call for a vote to leave. And then the party leader token and event die are given to the player with the most glory and a new round begins. Let's break things down a little more and look at each part of the turn. First, the event die. This is all very straightforward. The party leader rolls the die and follows the instructions for what was rolled, as we have already seen. But 2 things require some further discussion. The first is the ambush result. If this is rolled, then new creatures will enter the cavern equal to the number of dwarfs in the game. These are placed on entrance, exits and lairs closest to the leader. They are not placed on any other locations, and if an entrance or exit is already occupied, then no creature is placed. Instead, it is added to the next available entrance, exit or lair. The creatures you add depend on the cavern level. Levels 1 or 2 add stalagmites, 3 and 4 add creeping jeepers, and 5 or 6 add the red hook horrors. If all of the selected creatures are in play, cycle through the other creatures starting with the stalagmites. Adding creatures to lairs, you can only add the designated creature to its lair, and if it's already occupied, then move to populate the next entrance, exit or lair. That covers the ambush event result. The only other event result we need to cover in detail is the countdown result. The others are all straightforward and you just follow the reference sheet. Countdown event. The goblin hunting party is drawing near. When this symbol is rolled, the party leader loses 1 glory point and the next goblin hunting card is revealed and its instructions are followed. If there are no cards left in the deck to reveal, then the end game is triggered and the goblins arrive at the cavern. And you will place a number of goblins equal to the number of dwarfs plus 1 outside the cavern entrance. They will then move their full movement of 3 spaces into the cavern. They will not attack or run until they are next activated, and any goblins left outside that are unable to move into the cavern will remain there until they can move on a future turn. And on future activations, they will move towards the nearest dwarf and attack them. If any further countdown events are rolled, the party leader will still lose 1 glory point, and if there is one available, a new goblin will enter the cavern through the entrance. And now on to the Dwarf Turn. In keeping with the brilliant reference on the back page of the rulebook, the designers have provided us with a dwarf card for all players that has everything you need to know about how to use your dwarfs on your turn. This is fantastic and really helps you get playing straight away and makes teaching the game so much more easier. Let's go through the dwarf card now to see what we can do when it's our turn. Starting with the party leader and going clockwise, everyone gets a turn, which is 1 action and a movement of normally up to 3 spaces. And you can split your movement, for example, moving 1 space, taking your action, and then continuing for the rest of your remaining movement. You may move through another dwarf or jump over a pit, but you may not move through and jump over an enemy rock token or obstacle. Also, you may not share your space with another dwarf or enemy. Here are the actions you may take. Remember, only 1 action per turn. You can attack, climb out of a pit, investigate an adjacent rock or cave token and resolve its effects. And cave tokens are flipped and placed back face up, whilst rock tokens are normally discarded unless they are pits or obstacles. You can rescue another dwarf from a pit or cave and you will gain 1 glory for doing so. You can rest to heal 1 damage and may also discard 1 glory to heal an additional damage. And finally, you can run to move an extra space this turn. In addition to the 1 action a dwarf may take, they can use any number of abilities at any point during their turn. Gather treasure from your space or an adjacent empty space. Activate a crystal to heal 3 damage, or recharge a relic, or destroy any cursed relics, or to remove poison. And once you've used them, you replace the crystal with a gem. Finally, you can try to jump a pit, but only if you have sufficient movement to clear the pit and get to the other side. However, you must roll your dwarf die, and a blank result means you fall into the pit and suffer the consequences. Skills and relics. You may also use your skills or relics, and these do not count as actions. And there are 3 types. Setup, which can only happen during setup of the game. Single use, which can only be used once and are then exhausted, or ongoing, which can be used throughout the game and are never exhausted. We will discuss combat shortly, but for now you will notice that you can spend 1 glory to re-roll your dwarf die, so bear that in mind. And you can spend glory to re-roll as many times as you have glory points. Your dwarf die and its results are shown on your dwarf card. Next we come on to the enemy turn. Enemies all move and then attack in initiative and rank order, starting with Stalagbites and then ending with goblins. Each creature has a toughness, movement and glory award equal to their rank. A rank 2 creature will move before its rank 1 creatures, and then will attack before its rank 1 creatures. Creatures of a higher rank have dominance over lower rank creatures and will swap places with lower rank creatures of any type in their path. Creatures will always move towards the nearest dwarf, and the party leader will always be in charge of moving the creatures. And if there is ever a choice of path, the party leader again will decide where the creature moves. Most creatures cannot move through or jump over dwarves, goblins, rock tokens, obstacles or pits, though creeping jeepers can move over rock tokens and obstacles. Goblins differ from the creatures. They have a movement of 3 and have actions just like dwarfs, which they prefer to attack. So they can run, jump over pits and do anything to try and get at the nearest dwarf. And if a creature is in its path, it will even fight the creature. If a rock token is in its path, it will investigate it, and if it's treasure, even gather it up and take that treasure with it. When creatures and goblins attack, they will always try to attack dwarves, and will only attack each other if they are in each other's way. Creatures, however, will never attack other creatures. Once all enemies have had their turns, the next phase of the round begins, and players may vote to leave the caverns. Following that, you check who will be the next leader, and that will be the player with the most glory. Or if tied with the current leader remains in charge, and then the round finishes. Combat. Combat is a quick and simple dice rolling affair. The attacker rolls to inflict damage on the defender, and the defender rolls to try to save and prevent some or all of that damage. Remember that a dwarf can spend a glory point to re-roll their die, both while attacking and defending. The attacker rolls their die and checks to see if any damage has been inflicted. A special result roll will inflict 2 damage. Here are the dwarf die results. 4 sides of the die will result in 1 to 2 damage, whilst 2 will not result in any damage. If damage has occurred, then the defender rolls their die to try and save against the damage. A special result will block all damage, but a save will block just 1 damage. Any damage remaining is placed onto the defender using the red damage cubes. If a dwarf takes damage equal to its toughness, it's incapacitated. When an enemy takes damage, if it takes damage equal to its toughness, it is removed from the game. If a rank 2 creature takes 1 point of damage, place a red damage cube next to it as a reminder. It will now have 1 toughness remaining. The dwarf dealing the killing blow will gain glory points equal to the creature's rank, and 3 points if it was a goblin. Critical hits and counterattacks. A critical hit occurs if the attacker rolls a special and the defender rolls a blank. If a dwarf suffers a critical hit, it takes 2 damage, and in an ongoing campaign will draw critical hit cards instead. If an enemy takes a critical hit, then special things can happen, which is noted on their reference cards. A counterattack happens if the attacker rolls a blank and the defender rolls a special success. If this happens, the defender instantly becomes the attacker and performs an attack against the defender, who defends as normal. Incapacitated Dwarves. A dwarf with damage equal to his toughness is incapacitated and placed down flat onto the cavern. And if they are not healed by a crystal by the end of the next round, they will die and trigger the end game. And in addition, all remaining dwarfs lose half their glory points. That's the major gameplay rules covered, so it's time to look at the end game and how that works. The end game can be triggered in a number of ways. By vote, dwarfs can vote to exit the cavern. The goblin hunting party arrives, a dwarf dies, or the last cavern is revealed in the finale campaign game. When the end game is triggered, the party leader must place the exit marker to the revealed exit of their choice, and then all dwarfs must make their way to and exit the cavern. When it's their turn to move, they must move and end their turn at least 1 space closer to the exit, unless blocked. If they do not want to move closer to the exit, then they must give up 1 glory point. They may want to try and get more gold or glory before leaving. When a dwarf does exit the cavern, they may gain additional glory points. And the first to exit will gain glory equal to the number of dwarfs minus 1, with each subsequent exiting dwarf receiving 1 less point. As a result, the last dwarf to leave will not get any additional glory. Then all players add up their total glory and treasure, which is measured in gold. And the one with the most is the winner. And in the case of a tie, the dwarf who exited first wins. There are additional rules covering what happens at the end of a game if you are playing the campaign, but I will not cover those in this video. Everything is covered and fully explained in the rulebook. Okay, so with those rules explained, you could just jump into a game and start playing, referring to the rulebook as you need. But I will go through a few more things briefly now. Enemy initiative and characteristics. There's a handy table in the rulebook that provides you with all the relevant information and stats on each creature and goblin. But not only that, there are player aid cards to provide you with all this information at a glance, so keep these to hand and you won't go wrong. Each creature has a special ability, which will mean that the dwarves will not have an easy time of things. Stalagbites have the gang up ability and can re-roll a miss die roll once if next to another stalagmite. Creeping jeepers, on the other hand, or tentacle, or ooze-like appendage if you will, can grasp a dwarf and hold it down if it rolls a special attack, and the dwarf does not roll a special on its defense. Not only that, it can grasp as many dwarfs as its rank and will only drop them when killed. And to make matters even worse, when it moves, it takes the dwarves with it, and when it attacks a single opponent and any dwarves it has grasped. Very nasty. They also have a second ability, and that is Slither. They can slither across rock tokens and obstacles, but not over pits, for example. Red Hook Horrors have reach and can attack one space further away from it, even over rock tokens, obstacles and pits. And the dwarf does not get to counterattack a horror if it is one space away. It is also possible to encounter a goblin lurker in these caverns, and if these hit a dwarf, the dwarf must draw a poison card and follow its effects that normally last the whole game unless cured. Not only do creatures have special abilities, certain things will occur if they are hit with a critical hit from a dwarf. A rank 2 Stalagbite will be crushed and you will gain 1 gem, whilst the rank 1 Stalagbites are crushed and you gain 1 gold. There is a special gold Stalagbite, but that is encountered only through an incident card. So doing a critical roll against a Stalagbite is good, but if a creeping Jeeper takes a critical hit, it releases acidic slime inflicting 1 damage to everything adjacent to it, apart from other creeping Jeepers of course. And Red Hook Horrors release a death screech, and all creatures of its rank and below do not move or attack this round. It's these extra abilities and effects that really elevate the gameplay and take the game to new, unexpected levels. It's more than just bashing something and running off with its treasure, much more. I do not want to go into too much detail and create an overly long how to play video because the rulebook is just so good and it really has you covered. But as you play the game, you will be exploring and revealing things that may help or hinder you. When you investigate a cave or rock token and reveal it, you may find relics to use such as axes, boots, cloaks and helms. But there could be an incident that leads to disaster or discovery. Just follow the reveal token in the rulebook. Cave tokens may reveal exits and secret passages and even new caverns, all which are explained in detail in the rulebook. Caves, lairs and guardian caves could be discovered, revealing unexpected creatures and their treasures. Or you could stumble upon caves filled with gas or sinister things. There will be many obstacles in your path to glory, such as rockfalls, but you could just as easily discover an Alberon keystone, which the dwarfs love and worship, giving them more glory. And there of course could be treasure waiting to be discovered, gold, crystals and gems. But also your dwarf could stumble upon a pit and fall in. There are just so many things that can happen on your adventures that will make sure your games are filled with memorable experiences, the good and the bad. But rest assured, anything you stumble across, the rulebook will have you covered. Well, there you have it. Stalagbite, the Dwarven quest for gold and glory. Wow, what a fascinating game. For something that seems like a traditional dungeon crawl on one hand, suddenly is turned upon its head with all the excitement and drama and wonder of caverns filled with treasures and monsters and unexpected moments at every step of the way. The turns are very quick to play once you are familiar with the rules, and the sound of the caverns will soon be filled with the sounds of rolling dice. This game is sure to keep you on your toes with tons of action as you try to survive and gain as much glory and gold as you can. If this is the sort of game that appeals to you, then it's a game worthwhile to check out and take a look at. And whilst the Kickstarter may have literally recently just ended, pop onto their website for a late pledge options to make sure you get yourself a copy when it fulfills. I'd like to thank Paul from Midlam Miniatures for sending us a copy of the game to take a look at. That was really nice of you to do so, and we had fun setting up and playing this game. And again, I'd like to give a shout out to the rulebook and the player aids that really help you get into the game quickly. A great job there. Well, there you are, Stalagbite from Midlam Miniatures. I do hope you enjoyed taking a look at this game. Please like and subscribe if you did, that would be awesome. And in the meantime, please do take care and bye for now.